This video is about the 27 Club. Amy Jade Winehouse was born September 14th, 1983 in London, England. She signed her first record deal at the age of 19, and in 2003 she released her first album, Frank. In 2006, Amy released her critically acclaimed album, Back to Black. Amy's reputation as a party girl grew after marrying Blake Fielder Civil in 2007. Fielder Civil admittedly introduced Amy to heroin and crack cocaine. Their 2-year marriage was filled with a string of arrests for drug possession and domestic assault. The news reported she's only 24 with 6 Grammy nominations, crashing headfirst into success and despair. With a codependent husband in jail, exhibitionist parents, and the paparazzi documenting her emotional and physical distress. Amy's life went into a downward spiral. She entered rehab in 2008, one of many stints in rehab that didn't take. In 2009, Amy and Fielder Civil divorced. She was a full-blown alcoholic and developed an eating disorder. Due to health problems, Amy canceled performance after performance. Hardly performing at all, she entered rehab for her addictions. After rehab, Amy made what was to be her comeback performance in Serbia. She kept slurring and falling down. The crowd jeered and threw things at her, and she was kicked off the tour. On July 23, 2011, Amy Winehouse was found dead by her bodyguard. She had died from alcohol poisoning. Amy Winehouse was just 27 years old. James Marshall Hendrix was born on November 27, 1942, in Seattle, Washington. A self-taught guitar player at 17, his father bought him his first electric guitar. In 1961, Jimmy joined the U.S. Army and was a paratrooper honorably discharged due to an injury. He began playing under the name Jimmy James and became a backup player for B.B. King, Sam Cooke, and the Isley Brothers. In 1965, he formed his own group, Jimmy James and the Blue Flames. In 1966, he moved to London and formed the Jimi Hendrix Experience. In 1967, Hendrix released his first album, Are You Experienced?, which included hits Hey Joe, Purple Haze, and The Wind Cries Mary. In 1967, Hendrix performed at the Monterey Pop Festival and lit his guitar on fire. Hendrix became a rock superstar, releasing another album, Axis, Bold as Love. In 1968, Hendrix released Electric Ladyland featuring All Along the Watchtower. The Jimi Hendrix Experience continued to tour until the band split up in 1969. In 1969, Hendrix was the last performer at Woodstock and played his memorable version of the Star-Spangled Banner. Hendrix had his own recording studio, Electric Ladyland, and had plans to form a new group, Band of Gypsies. On the evening of September 17, 1970, Hendrix spent the night at his girlfriend Monica Dannerman's hotel. On September 18, 1970, Jimi Hendrix was found dead from a drug overdose, sleeping pills, in her bed. Jimi Hendrix was just 27 years old. Kurt Donald Cobain was born on February 20th, 1967 in Aberdeen, Washington. His parents divorced when he was 9, and his childhood was full of anger and emotional turmoil. He spent much of his teen years sleeping under bridges, couch surfing, rebelling, and doing drugs. In the mid-80s, he began playing with a local sludge rock band called the Melvins. In 1987, he formed the group Nirvana and toured the Northwest. In 1988, independent record label Sub Pop signed Nirvana to produce its first single, Love Buzz. In 1989, Nirvana produced its first album, Bleach, on the Sub Pop label. Nirvana attracted major labels and in 1991 produced the album Nevermind, featuring the hit Smells Like Teen Spirit. Cobain became the voice of his generation, a label he was never comfortable with. In 1992, Kurt married the lead singer of the group Hole, Courtney Love. That same year, Cobain and Love's daughter, Frances Bean, was born. Courtney Love told Vanity Fair she had done heroin while pregnant, and the couple found themselves under investigation. Cobain and Love had to fight for custody of their daughter. In 1993, Nirvana released their hit album, In Utero, featuring Heart-Shaped Box. Cobain suffered from stomach problems, depression, and drug addiction over the years. Nirvana became famous and successful, but Cobain began to spiral out of control under the pressure. In March of 1994, Cobain was hospitalized for an alleged attempted suicide by drug overdose. He checked into a rehab but walked out. On April 5, 1994, Cobain was found dead by suicide. The note read, "It's better to burn out than to fade away." Kurt Cobain was just 27 years old. Janis Joplin was born on January 19, 1943, in Port Arthur, Texas. She was a good student, sang in the church choir, but always felt like a misfit and a rebel. Joplin had an unhappy childhood and in 1963 dropped out of college to pursue music. She sang the blues and folk music at blues clubs in Texas and San Francisco. Joplin began abusing alcohol, methamphetamines, and in 1966 became the vocalist for Big Brother and the Holding Company. Joplin performed a rendition of Ball and Chain at the Monterey Music Festival in 1967. In 1968, Big Brother produced their first album, Cheap Thrills. In 1968, Janis Joplin's song Piece of My Heart became a hit and reached number 12 in the charts. In 1969, Joplin started her own group, the Cosmic Blues Band. Joplin was arrested that year for the use of vulgar and indecent language after a performance in Tampa, Florida. In 1969, Joplin appeared on the cover of Newsweek with the headline, Rebirth of the Blues. Joplin was recording a new album called Pearl, but relapsed on heroin during this time. On October 4th, 1970, Janis Joplin was found dead of an accidental heroin overdose at the Landmark Hotel in Hollywood. Janis Joplin was just 27 years old. James Douglas Morrison was born on December 8, 1943, in Melbourne, Florida. Morrison grew up in a strict household, the son of a Navy Rear Admiral. He rebelled in high school and began to drink heavily. He went to college to avoid the draft, allegedly. After college in 1965, he formed the Doors with some of his friends. He chose the name because of a William Blake poem, "There are things that are known and things that are unknown. In between are doors." During this time, he met Pamela Corson, his cosmic partner. Morrison's father did not approve of his career path, telling him give up any idea of singing because he lacked talent. 2 years later, the Doors released Light My Fire, which quickly rose to number 1 in the charts. Morrison began drinking even more and experimented with drugs. In 1969, Morrison was arrested for indecent exposure at a concert in Florida. During his trial in 1970, Morrison wrote, "The joy of performing has ended." When he bonded out of jail, he quit the Doors. In 1970, he and his girlfriend Pamela moved to Paris, France. On July 3, 1971, Jim Morrison's girlfriend found him dead in the bathtub. He had suffered a heart attack brought on by a heroin overdose. Jim Morrison was just 27 years old.